He wore a plain hoodie, unbranded sneakers, and had zero millionaire attitude. But what no one knew was that this simple-looking man was the eldest son of Snoop Dogg and the sole owner of the dealership. They looked him up and down, underestimated him, even tried to escort him out of the place. But they made a grave mistake, judging the silent heir to an empire by his appearance. The sun beat mercilessly over the wide, polished streets of Scottsdale, Arizona, as a modest black SUV glided smoothly into the back of the parking lot at Prestige Motors, one of the most exclusive luxury car dealerships in the Southwest. Its reflective glass doors gleamed like mirrors under the harsh light, and inside, some of the world's most expensive cars rested on display. Ferraris, Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, and a golden McLaren that looked like a jewel from another world. Behind the wheel, with soft Kendrick Lamar music playing through the speakers, was the eldest son of legendary rapper Snoop Dogg. Although he carried the weight of a powerful name and a multimillion-dollar fortune, Damon was never a fan of showing off. His style was relaxed, almost invisible. A gray hoodie, worn jeans, and plain sneakers. Nothing about his appearance said owner, and that's exactly how he wanted it. As soon as he stepped out of the vehicle, he breathed in the dry desert air with calculated calm. His visit wasn't casual. This was the first day he would inspect his newest acquisition, a dealership entrusted to him by his father as part of his growing role in the family business. But Damon didn't want to show up as the boss's son. He wanted to know the truth. How did they treat regular customers? What was the real culture when no one was watching? He adjusted his hoodie, shoved his hands in his pockets, and walked toward the main entrance. Through the glass, he saw 3 employees chatting by the front desk, laughing casually, until they saw him walk in. As soon as he opened the door, the blast of cold air conditioning hit him like a wall. The scent of new leather and wax polish filled the air. LED lights highlighted every curve of the cars on display like they were in an art gallery. But it didn't take more than a second after he stepped inside for the energy to shift. Their eyes cut through him like knives masked as curiosity. Some looked him up and down, others tried to hide it. But their body language spoke louder than words. And then, as if she had smelled his presence, she appeared. Susan Horn, floor manager. A middle-aged woman, her hair tied in a mathematically perfect bun, wearing sharp heels and a tailored suit that screamed authority. She clutched a black folder to her chest like a shield. Her steps echoed across the marble, and her expression was a blend of protocol and suspicion. "Excuse me," she said, raising an eyebrow coolly. "Can I help you with something?" Damon smiled casually. He'd seen that look many times, even while standing next to his father at red carpet events. "Just browsing," he replied calmly, gesturing to the cars. "Something caught my eye from outside." Susan scanned him from head to toe. It was obvious his hoodie didn't match the usual Prestige Motors clientele profile. Her lips tightened slightly. "Are you looking to purchase a vehicle?" "Could be," Damon shrugged. "You never know." Susan smiled, but the courtesy had an edge. "This place operates under certain pre-qualification standards," she said, her voice low but firm. "Our vehicles aren't available to the general public without prior approval. Perhaps I could recommend a dealership with more accessible models." Damon's heart remained calm. It wasn't the first time he'd been judged for his clothes, or his skin color, or for not acting like a stereotypical rich kid. But something about Susan's tone was particularly offensive. It wasn't ignorance. It was arrogance dressed as professionalism. "Are you assuming I'm not qualified to buy here?" he asked, still smiling. Susan hesitated for a second. "I'm just trying to save you time," she replied sharply. "These cars start in the 6 figures. Maybe a dealership focused on pre-owned models would be more fitting." "Pre-owned," Damon repeated, eyeing a nearby Aston Martin. "I don't mind used cars, as long as they're not scratched on the inside, like certain attitudes." Susan frowned. Either she didn't get the sarcasm or she chose to ignore it. "Please," she added, crossing her arms, "don't touch the vehicles unless you're in the process of purchasing." Damon stepped back. His gaze deepened. He didn't need to raise his voice, just be heard. "All right, surprise me. What would you recommend for someone like me?" Susan blinked. Someone like you? Yes. You seem to know exactly who I am. An awkward silence followed. Susan pressed her lips together, then turned and walked away stiffly. Damon remained there, in front of the gleaming silver sports car, looking at his reflection in the polished paint. The face of a man who didn't need to prove anything, but was about to teach a whole team a lesson. He knew the best part was yet to come. Seconds stretched like the echo of an uncomfortable silence as Damon Brodus scanned the luxurious showroom. Every inch sparkled like a promise of exclusivity, a promise that apparently wasn't made for everyone. Susan took several minutes to return. When she did, she walked with determination, clutching her folder to her chest and holding a printed list. Her heels clicked like hammers on the marble floor. Her fake smile barely masked the irritation bubbling beneath the surface. "Here you go," she said, handing him a printed sheet. "These are some options more appropriate for your situation." Damon calmly raised an eyebrow. He took the paper without looking at it, keeping his eyes fixed on Susan. "My situation?" he repeated firmly. Susan avoided eye contact for a second. "More affordable vehicles, reliable, economical, well-maintained pre-owned models. Practical options," she explained mechanically, like someone who had given the same speech 1,000 times. Only this time, she was saying it to the owner without knowing it. Damon looked down and scanned the list. A 2015 minivan, a compact sedan with over 80,000 miles, a basic hybrid. None of these cars would ever be on display under the lights of Prestige Motors. They were the vehicles hidden in the back lot, away from the eyes of real customers. With a slow, calm gesture, he folded the paper and tucked it into the pocket of his hoodie. "Thanks for the effort," he said without emotion, but with a courtesy that disarmed Susan for a moment. She looked confused, used to defensive or angry responses. She hadn't expected this level of self-control. Maybe, deep down, something inside her was starting to tell her she had made a mistake. "Look," she began, trying to sound empathetic, "I'm just being realistic with you. Prestige Motors isn't for everyone. I don't want you to waste your time or leave disappointed." Damon kept his gaze steady. "And what makes you think I'm not the customer you're looking for?" Susan looked at him coldly, almost as if her suit gave her the authority to determine someone's destiny. "I've worked here for years. I can spot someone who's out of their league." "Out of their league," Damon repeated, tasting the words. There was no anger in his voice, just a quiet calm, the kind that comes before a storm. Susan didn't sense the danger. "I'm telling you this for your own good. It's better to be honest now than let you dream about something that won't happen. Trust me. Not everyone can afford what we sell here." Damon chuckled softly, almost silently. Then he looked up and said, "I like honesty, so let's do this. I'd like to speak to the owner." Susan froze for a second. "The owner? That's right. Maybe he sees things differently. Is he available?" Susan adjusted her blazer uncomfortably. "No, the owner doesn't come without an appointment. He's a busy man. Not just anyone can ask to see him." "Really?" Damon said, feigning surprise. "And you can't call him? Maybe he'd like to know how customers are being treated here." "Look, sir," Susan began, clearly losing patience. "I'm trying to be as polite as possible. I have other clients to attend to. If you're truly interested, I can schedule an appointment with one of our consultants. If not," Damon tilted his head. "If not what?" "Then I'll have to ask you to leave." And for the first time, the room's energy shifted. The air grew heavier. The tension could be cut with a platinum credit card. Damon didn't move. Instead, he reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out his phone. "All right," he said, sliding his finger across the screen. "I'll make the call myself." Susan frowned. "What are you doing?" "Calling the owner," Damon replied with a half-smile, lifting the phone to his ear. A couple of employees stopped talking. Silence took over the showroom. "Yes, it's me. I'm at the dealership. Everything's fine, just a little misunderstanding. Tell them I'll be waiting in the main lounge," he said into the phone before hanging up. Susan swallowed hard. Her hands gripped the folder tightly. "Who did you just call?" she asked, her voice now stripped of confidence. Damon tucked the phone into his hoodie and looked around, at the employees now staring at him like they'd seen a ghost. "You'll find out," he said with a smile that needed no further explanation. Just wait a moment. The showroom had turned into a stage. Everyone was now an actor without a script, and Damon, the lead character, was about to steal the final scene. The air inside Prestige Motors was so thick you could slice it with a key fob. The showroom, once full of laughter and casual chatter, now felt frozen. The employees, once relaxed, watched in silence as Damon Broadus, the man in the gray hoodie, stood calmly next to the Lamborghini Centenario, as if it were already his. Because, even though no one knew it yet, it was uncomfortable. Each second felt like an eternity. She tried to keep her composure, but her face had lost all color. Though she didn't yet understand what was happening, something inside her sensed it. She had made a serious mistake. And then it happened. The main doors opened with a sharp, clean sound. A man in his 40s, impeccably dressed in a custom navy blue suit, walked in with confident strides. His sharp features, assured gait, and commanding presence instantly commanded respect. Without raising his voice, everyone at the dealership knew who he was. Alex Romero, regional director of the Luxury Auto Group, who had recently sold the Prestige Motors dealership to someone very few had met. Alex crossed the showroom, his shoes echoing over the marble floor. When his eyes met Damon's, a respectful smile formed on his face. "Mr. Broadus," he said, extending his hand with sincerity. "It's a pleasure to see you here. I wasn't expecting your visit so soon." Damon took his hand firmly, but without arrogance. "Thank you for coming, Alex. I just needed to see a few things for myself." Susan took a step back as if her legs had lost their strength. Her gaze darted between Damon and Alex, trying to piece together what she could no longer deny. "Broadus," she murmured almost in a whisper. "How?" Alex turned to her, his tone suddenly more professional and sharp. "Susan, I see you've already met the new owner of the dealership." Susan's face crumbled like a house of cards. The folder in her hands trembled slightly, as if she didn't know what to do with it. "He's?" she stammered. "Yes," Alex confirmed bluntly. "Damon Broadus, son of Mr. Calvin Broadus, known to the world as Snoop Dogg, the new sole owner of Prestige Motors." A wave of silence swept across the showroom. Some employees' eyes widened. Others looked at the floor in awkward discomfort. No one dared speak. Susan, meanwhile, appeared frozen, her skin pale, her jaw tense. She opened her mouth to say something but couldn't get a word out. Damon stepped forward. There was no anger in his voice, no revenge, only a disappointing calm. "Don't worry, Susan. It happens to all of us. Sometimes we think we know people just by looking at them." She looked at him with glassy eyes. "I didn't know. I mean, I know," he interrupted calmly. "You didn't know who I was, and that's what worries me the most." He looked her directly in the eyes without blinking. "Because if I weren't the owner, if I were just a customer in plain clothes, would you have treated me the same?" Susan lowered her gaze. Finally, she understood. Damon turned to Alex. "I think it's time to gather the whole team. We're going to have a little talk." Alex nodded. In just a few minutes, every employee, from receptionists to sales advisors, gathered in the elegant second-floor conference room. The contrast was striking. A long glass table, white leather chairs, warm designer lighting. But that day, the aesthetic couldn't mask the tension in the air. Damon stood at the front. He didn't need to raise his voice. "Thank you all for coming," he began, calmly crossing his arms. "My name is Damon Broadus, and for the past few weeks, I've been the new owner of this place." Some employees nodded in surprise. Others didn't know whether to hide or applaud. "Today, I came dressed like any ordinary person, like any customer who might walk through that door. And I did it on purpose, because I wanted to see with my own eyes how people are treated here. When there are no cameras, no executives, no expensive suits around. He paused and looked at Susan, who was seated in the back with her hands folded and eyes downcast. And what I saw hurt. The room was completely silent. Only the faint hum of the air conditioning filled the void. This is not just a car dealership. We don't sell metal. We sell trust, experience, service. And if the first thing someone feels when they walk through that door is that they don't belong, then something is very wrong. Damon walked slowly to the glass window overlooking the showroom. He looked at the cars as if they no longer held the same meaning. My father always told me, respect isn't earned by what you have in your pocket, but by how you make others feel. That's what I want to build here. A culture where no one has to pretend to be someone else to be treated with dignity. He turned back to face everyone. I didn't come here to humiliate anyone. I came to learn and to teach. We're going to change. And that change starts today. He addressed Susan again, his expression more human than cold. Susan, do you have anything to say? She lifted her head with difficulty. Her voice came out trembling. I made a mistake. I judged someone by how they were dressed, and I feel ashamed. I'm deeply sorry. Damon nodded. He didn't say, I forgive you, but his eyes conveyed something more powerful, a chance to do better. An apology is a good start. What you do from today on is what will truly define who you are. The conference room remained silent. Damon Brodus's words still echoed in the air, like something too important to interrupt. No one chewed gum. No one checked their phone. Even Alex, the regional director, didn't move a muscle. It was one of those moments where the whole environment froze, to listen to something that truly mattered. Damon leaned gently on the glass table, arms crossed. I don't expect things to change overnight, he said firmly, but I do expect us to start seeing beneath the surface. Because if we keep judging people by how they dress, how they look, or how they speak, we'll never know who's really standing in front of us. He turned slowly to the group. Today it was me. Tomorrow it could be a single mother, an immigrant, a war veteran, a young entrepreneur, someone who has all the money they need but no suit or tie. Are we going to keep judging everyone by the surface? One of the younger sales advisors timidly raised his hand. Mr. Brodus, I think most of us try to be fair, but sometimes, without realizing it, we do make assumptions. We've been trained to identify profiles, to read buying signals. Everything's very mechanical. Damon nodded respectfully. I know, and I don't blame you for that. But there's a difference between detecting intentions and making judgments. And that difference changes everything. He looked at Susan again, this time with a more constructive gaze. Susan, you've been in this industry a long time, and I know you didn't get here by accident. What happened today can be a turning point, or a permanent stain. You decide what it will be. Susan, visibly affected, nodded. I want to change. I truly do. I feel responsible. And I want to help make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. She spoke in a hoarse voice. Damon gave her a small smile, not of victory, but of opportunity. Good, because I'm going to need you for what's coming. Everyone lifted their gaze. Starting this week, we're launching a complete transformation at Prestige Motors, not just in how we sell, but in how we serve. I want to implement 3 immediate changes. 1. Empathy and diversity training. Not empty seminars. We're bringing in experts, real cases, lived stories. I want us to learn to listen more than we look. 2. A customer service code based on values, not appearances. No one should be judged by their clothes before being greeted. Everyone should feel welcome from the very first second, whether they walk in driving a Tesla or riding a bicycle. 3. A team culture of mutual respect. No egos. This isn't an internal competition. If one person earns a commission, the whole team should feel part of it, because customers don't come back for the car. They come back for how we made them feel. From the back of the room, Alex discreetly gave a thumbs up. He was impressed. Damon took a deep breath. I didn't come here to impose. I came to build. And those who want to be part of this new vision will not only have my support, but also the opportunity to grow with me. There will be promotions, new responsibilities, and yes, bonuses for those who prove through their actions that they are making a difference. One of the oldest employees, an African-American man with a graying beard named Morris, raised his hand. Mr. Brodus, thank you. Truly, no one in this company has ever spoken to us with such clarity. They always demanded results, but no one ever taught us to see the customer as a story, not as a number. Damon nodded. Thank you, Morris. That's exactly the point. What I want to change, because everyone here is more than just numbers. We're people and we deal with people. The energy in the room had shifted. Fear had given way to hope. Some employees looked at each other as if discovering one another anew. As if, for the first time, they felt seen, heard, and part of something greater than just a car showroom. Susan slowly stood up. I want to be part of that change, she said firmly. And I want to start by apologizing to the whole team for the image I projected today. I didn't just fail a customer. I failed as a leader. The gesture was as unexpected as it was necessary. Some employees applauded. Others nodded in silence. Damon walked to the center of the room and extended his hand toward Susan. She took it, still with a trace of shame in her eyes. Second chances exist, Damon said, but they're not given, they're earned. And this is your moment to prove it. Susan looked him in the eyes, no tears, but an honesty that said everything. I won't let you down. Damon smiled, not a victorious smile, but one of opportunity. Then let's make history. The meeting eventually ended, but its echo didn't fade. In fact, it was only the beginning. The atmosphere at Prestige Motors began to transform. From the very first Monday, the energy wasn't about silent competition or inflated egos. It was about collaboration, listening, sincere glances. Even Susan, the woman who once judged by appearances, began taking the time to listen with her heart. Every customer who walked through those doors was now greeted with a genuine smile, not a wardrobe scan. Damon, far from delegating, was ever present. He walked among sales advisors, chatted with mechanics, greeted receptionists by name. He got involved with every department. He didn't need to raise his voice to command respect. His example spoke louder than any speech. But what no one expected happened exactly 30 days later. A camera crew arrived at the dealership. Journalists, automotive influencers, content creators, all had been invited to a press conference announced by none other than Calvin Brodus, Snoop Dogg, via his social media. The post he shared was simple yet powerful. My son was judged for how he dressed, not for who he was. So we decided to do something about it. Tomorrow, see how you flip a system from the inside. Hashtag Prestige Redefined. Hashtag Dante Judge. Hashtag Respect is Luxury. The press conference. The showroom was packed. Cameras pointed at a stage set up in front of a stunning black Bentley Continental. Behind it, a new phrase adorned the wall. We don't sell cars here. We sell respect. Damon stepped onto the stage, dressed exactly like the day he was humiliated. Gray hoodie, jeans, sneakers. Thank you all for coming. He began calmly into the microphone. Today we're not just relaunching a dealership. We're relaunching an idea. That luxury doesn't have to mean arrogance. That appearance should never define experience. And that respect is the true form of premium service. Flashes lit up the room. A month ago, I came here undercover, just a regular customer, and I was judged for how I looked. No one asked who I was, what I did, or how I felt. That experience, though painful, gave me a gift, the opportunity to change things forever. Suddenly, one of the cameras shifted. The crowd murmured. From the side of the showroom, through a wave of applause, entered Snoop Dogg, wearing a dark suit, sunglasses, and walking slow but steady. His presence alone electrified the space. He walked up to his son and gave him a long, proud hug. Then he took the mic. EY, when I handed this place to my son, it wasn't because of his last name. I gave it to him because he's got vision, because he's got heart, and because he believes respect is earned in the streets, at work, in how we treat the people around us. That's something money can't buy. Applause erupted. A standing ovation. This dealership is now a symbol of something much bigger, Snoop continued. It's a message to everyone who's ever been ignored, underestimated, or treated like they didn't deserve the best, just because of how they looked. Well, you do deserve it. And here, you'll be treated like royalty. A campaign for the history books. Damon and his team launched a viral campaign titled, "Luxury is Dignity." It featured real people, a mechanic who saved for 5 years to buy his first luxury car, a single mother who arrived by public transportation but paid for her dream car in cash, a young black entrepreneur who was rejected elsewhere, but welcomed here as he deserved. Each story was told authentically, no actors, no filters, just truth. Within 72 hours, the videos had amassed over 30 million views. Major automotive brands began to replicate the message. Even companies outside the industry started talking about Damon Broadus as the CEO of Respect. Susan, now transformed into the head of internal culture, organized mentorship groups among employees. Every Friday before closing, they celebrated small but powerful stories of outstanding service. Prestige Motors stopped being just a car dealership. It became a movement. The sunset. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops of Scottsdale, Damon stepped into the back lot. He leaned against his SUV, the same one he drove that very first day. Beside him stood his father, looking at him with a mix of pride and nostalgia. "You did it, son," Snoop said. "You don't just sell cars, you sell an idea that could change the world." Damon smiled, eyes on the horizon. "Thanks, Dad, but this is just the beginning."